I call these decagon rings when the circumference is large and the width is small because the outline takes on a clearly 10-sided characteristic. I call them pentagon rings when the width is wider because then the outline takes on a 5-sided characteristic. These are adjustable in multiple dimensions: in the circumference, in the width, in the thickness, and in the shape. These 6 have different circumferences. These 2 have the same circumference but different width. And then these 2 have the same circumference but different thicknesses. And then also this one has been further modified to have a different shape. The rings are built up in layers, and the inner layer is what defines the overall size of the ring. The first layer must be made of multiples of 10 magnets. And so this one started with 10, this one started with 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60. This size decagon ring is made with 4 rings of 30 balls for the first layer, 4 rings of 35 balls for the second layer, and 3 rings of 40 balls for the third layer. Regardless of the ultimate size of the ring, the pattern for the first layer is always the same. Shift along every other diagonal. And then add a ball to the gaps at the bottom of the ring. This results in a pattern of columns of 5 balls and 4 balls all the way around. The second layer has a unique pattern for each size of decagon ring. And for this size, the pattern is to make 3 shifts along every other diagonal. And then after the third, skip an extra diagonal to start the next section. And then for each section, remove these 3 balls. This results in a pattern of alternating columns of 3 and 4 balls. It's 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 4. For each section there's a pair of 4s at the end of the section. Now cut the ring between one of the pairs of 3 and 4. And then connect the 4 balls to one side of one of the columns of 5 in the first ring. Now, halfway to the next pair of 4s, push a little to make a bend. And then when you get to laying down the pairs of 4, pull a little so that the two columns of 4 line up in parallel. So it's bend and then pull just a little. For the third layer, like the first layer, the pattern is to always shift along every other diagonal. And then remove 3 balls along one side and skip 1. So it's remove 3, skip 1. The result is a pattern of columns of 2 and 3 balls with three columns of 3 balls at the end of the pattern. So it's 2 3 2 3 2 3 3 3. Cut the ring between the first 2 columns of 3 balls and connect the 3 balls between the two of the pairs of 4 ball columns, and then pull a little to line up the columns of 3, and follow the bend of the ring to the next group of 3 balls and pull and shift. So it's bend and then shift. At this stage, the ring has a sloping profile. The reason I build it this way is because it's more stable during the assembly process. At this point, you can either add balls to make it thicker, like this, or to remove balls to make it thinner. I'm going to remove balls to make it match the prototype ring. The next larger size Decagon ring is built with 4 rings of 40 balls, 4 rings of 45 for the second layer, and 3 rings of 50 for the third layer. Like before, the first layer is built by shifting every other diagonal and then adding balls to the bottom, resulting in this pattern. The second layer is a little different in that there are 4 shifts per section rather than 3. And as before, skip over 1 diagonal before starting the next section. And in this case, remove 4 balls from the bottom of each section. This results in a pattern of 3 and 4 ball columns, but there are 4 of them, so it's 3 4 3 4 3 4 3 4 4. There's again a pair of columns of 4 at the end of the section. As before, cut between the pair of 4 ball columns. And lay down the strip, but this time the bend won't happen right in the middle between the 4 ball columns, the pairs of 4 ball columns. It can't bend at that point. The middle point is this column of 4 balls, it'll have to bend at one of the 3s. And I always just go to the one after the middle. So it goes like this. So it's, and then shift a little offset from the center, and then shift at the pair. The pattern for the 3rd layer is the same as before, where the shift is made on every other diagonal. But in this case, remove 4 balls and then skip 1. And now, in this case, the pattern is an extra group of 2s and 3s. So it's 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 3, 3. There's still a group of 3 columns of 3 at the end of the section. And as before, cut between the first 2 columns of 3 and connect between the pairs of 4, and then shift and follow the contour. I've removed the extra layers, so this is now 3 balls thick, like this prototype ring. When I added the 2nd layer, I couldn't make this bend halfway between these 2 areas. And that's a consequence of using an even multiple of 10 for the 1st layer. In this case, it was 40, 4 times 10. So whenever a ring is built with an even multiple of 10, this asymmetrical bend will have to be fixed. And the ring has to get to about this stage before it can be fixed. Fixing it is easy at this point. It's simply a matter of shifting it like this. To add layers to make the ring wider, follow the same pattern as the previous layers. There's a section with balls that are in parallel and a section of balls that are alternating. This section always stays the same length, and with each layer this grows by 1 ball. There are 2 ways to make rings thicker. One is to add balls to the surface, and the other is to combine 2 rings. When I add balls to the surface, I try to add balls to 1 layer at a time to keep the magnetic fields as uniform as possible. When combining two rings, the surfaces have to be complementary. That is, where one has ridges, the other needs to have grooves. Cylinders can be built up this way. These shapes are possible with certain combinations of dimensions. This ring is 30 balls inner diameter, inner circumference, and it's 4 layers wide and 4 balls thick. This is 40 balls inner circumference. It's 5 layers wide and 5 balls thick. This is 50 balls inner circumference. It's 6 layers wide and 6 balls thick. They can be derived from rings like this with pretty much a square cross section. They're flat on top and the bottom, by removing balls at the on the inner surface and the outer surface. And the place to remove them is here. And here.